Hey, Jim Craddock here. It's Thursday, August 31st, 2023. And giving a daily update. I kind of had an epiphany last night. I want to talk a little bit about that and talk a little bit about kind of what I'm going through right now. So first, what I'm going through right now, definitely things are changing even more. Uh, you know, the first symptoms I had with muscles started the first week of July. And it was like suddenly this shoulder up here got real tight. I mean, just within one day. Uh, and my whole arm started burning. And I, I tried to do the best I could with it, put creams on and things. And what I would notice is that when I would go to move it, that tightness, it would pull and it would tear, and then it would become more flexible, and it wouldn't hurt as much. The stiffness would be less, and then pretty soon it kind of gets stiff again. So anyway, so now we're 2 months later. Just over the last, I don't know, several days, started getting tightness in my triceps a lot. It's sensitive to to the touch, not real painful, but painful. And and raising my arm over my head, or the thing that always gets me is, so when I wake up in the morning, I generally stretch, and when I do that, I flex my shoulders, and that flexing is extremely painful. Uh, so yeah, there's that. The other thing is kind of that I want to talk about is a couple different things about how one of the things I remembered was that these people in this experiment, it talked about how uh, it, they're so. I guess I should explain. So this whole progression of this disease is basically just salts being stored and then salts kind of being removed, and these very long phases of electrolytes, just and the way that's being caused is, at first it's, hey, your kidneys are kind of operating in reverse, and and then you've got your pituitaries pushing them out there, and then, hey, your heart takes some damage, so now fluids are kind of rinsing out your system, and they're getting out everything, and then later on you get to this phase where uh, like I entered in the beginning of last year, where okay, you can't hold this back pressure anymore at the inferior vena cava. So suddenly, that kind of opens up, and it suddenly allows all this stuff that's been forced into your legs and your lower body to rush out. And so you have a lot of polyuria, dark polyuria, while you lose all that weight. Okay. But now then you've got this system where uh, the flow is much greater than it was before through there, because there's no longer this back pressure being held, and so that causes all types of issues. And eventually you kind of go through this. You go through this kind of loosening, so everything is kind of rinsed out now, and then you're I'm not exactly sure what happens at the next part, but you go through another phase of, hey, you're going to store more salts, and everything gets hard again. Okay. And I think we're now at the point where everything is starting to get rinsed out again. And I don't know exactly what is causing these last couple of mini transitions. Like the big transitions over the decades are some very definite things that go on, and I know these are too, but those take very long to take effect. And then the article said how the last 18 months was basically just an unwinding of everything, one after the other, and continually changing. And I have experienced that from beginning with the polyuria and the bowel problems, and burning, pain all over my body at times. So just like I just had to just try to remain completely still, because if I moved at all, it hurt. And then, constipation, headaches, and these are all like, continually changing things as it basically, kind of unwinds all this. And that's why it's so difficult for medicine, because medicine, once you go in there and have a chief complaint, they want to figure it out. And if they have a moving target, they have no idea what to do. And that's exactly what this is at this point. It's just a moving target, and it's very difficult. But I think we're to the point where, with the muscular involvement and things, I'm not going to give up. So, and I've assembled my stable of, I've got an orthopedic doctor who I'm going to keep following up with. I have a neurologist who I'm going to keep following up with. I have a rheumatologist who I'll have an appointment with in October. I'm sure things will be way down the road by then. And if need be, I have an endocrinologist, not an endocrinologist, sorry, kidney doctor I've been to, and I've got another neurologist that I've been to at the Cleveland Clinic that I can pull in if I have to. So I'm not giving up. But I can tell you that just me like reaching over, oh my God, that hurts. Just reaching like that as I stretch my muscles and they get pulled tight, it hurts. And it's just not great. So, I think we're kind of at this point where everything is getting kind of rinsed out again. And so, and then as you go through these transitions, when, it goes from this heavy salt state to this other state, what happens is it gets to where the candidiasis can pop its head out and do things and cause its damage. And then you kind of swing through that, and it kind of dives back away. And that's exactly what has happened throughout my life. It's like, you start going through one of these transitions, you're like, oh my God, all this weird stuff is happening. And then it gets even weirder. Okay. And then slowly that weirdness goes away and you start getting better. And, that's how the short transitions have been. But this time it's not like that. And, I'm just trying to bring awareness to terminal onset diabetes insipidus with candidiasis major. It was redacted. I have found it in a medical textbook. I used the process in there and duplicated it in order to save myself from a condition in 1995. And, I signed up for this and I'm living through it. I'm pissed off that all the documentation isn't accessible, and therefore no doctors would ever, believe in it. And they don't know how to treat it, and they don't know even to look for it, and so they aren't familiar with something like this. And you go in there, and if it was part of their training, or if it's at least in a book somewhere, there would be a chance of being taken seriously. But without it, the system doesn't work. It's broken. It's the failure of modern medicine, and I'm not happy about it, but hey, I'm coping. I've got my anniversary is in 12 days. That is my target date for right now. That's the same week as I have a lot of shit going on. But I've got, let's see, I got my follow-up with my orthopede. I've got my car's got to get serviced that day. I have an electric Kia EV6. I love the car. There's something wrong with it right now. I think it's due to a recall on it where it just drains the battery, the 12 volt. And so I have to jump it. I have to put a trickle charger on it. So that afternoon, Monday afternoon, I've got that. And then they moved my bone scan to the Wednesday. So I've got my bone scan Wednesday. And then I've got my follow-up that week, the next day with Dr. Edwards, my neuro, and there's just a lot going on that week. But hey, I'm happy to be here. I'm still able to, I made dinner last night. I wanted to make an effort. And, it's not easy for me to do things like cut vegetables. But I made shish kebabs while everybody's gone and got all that ready and grilled it on my smoker. And we had shish kebabs last night, and that'll be my lunch here in a little bit. And, you know, I, I'm trying. My life is not normal, but it can appear normal as much as possible to everybody else. My wife and I have to deal with it, but I'm trying to, keep everybody else from having to deal with it for as long as possible. And it's just what it is. This weekend I had my fantasy football draft. I got Jefferson. Had the first pick. I'm sorry, I haven't paid attention to football last year, so I don't even know who he is. But the rest of my team's pretty good too. I even got the Jets defense as the very last pick in the draft, which they're like the number 3 or 4 defense. Pretty happy about that. So that'll give me something to spend some time on. I might go to karaoke next week if I'm up to it. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's about all I really wanted to talk. Well, so there's one other thing, and I hope I don't get to this point. I mean, this would be so horrible, but so my flesh is tender already, and I can imagine if all the salts continue to get washed out. I remember these are all like apoptotic cells, so they're not really like living cells under there anymore. You just kind of have this skin. And I remember specifically it talked about how the people's skin would literally come off if they weren't careful when they handled the patients. I don't want to live that long if my skin is coming off. So hopefully it doesn't get that far. But I mean, it's a possibility. There's kind of 3 groups. I don't know if I've ever spent much time talking about this, but there's kind of 3 groups that they talked about in the study, and I don't know when they diverge. I know it's during this last after this last transformation, but one group would keep eating and drinking, and they were known as the ketos. Okay, and so they would go into this ketotic phase. And I think you would have to include me in the keto group, and where their body is literally 100% being run off of ketones, and to do that, all types of things have gone wrong in the body. I mean, your kidneys aren't working the way they're supposed to. Your liver's not working the way it's supposed to. Your circulation is not going to the places it's supposed to. And so basically all the assumptions that you as a medical person, if you're listening to this about, oh, well, that wouldn't work because, okay, well, all those other things have cascadedly failed during this system in catastrophic ways, but have not, resulted in clinical changes. And you're saying, okay, your liver failed, that's not possible. Well, it is. I mean, it is. I'm here, and it talked about it in there, and it talked about how if they were to do a liver biopsy, they'd find out it was just a bag of blood, and then they would have had the problem of now they've caused a leak in it by doing the biopsy. So there's definitely that. There was a sentence in there where it said there was a sigh of relief from them when their kidneys finally gave out. And so you're like, well, if your kidneys give out, you're dead. Well, no, because there's this weird way of your circulatory system is releasing fluids, and somehow your body is able to fill the bladder with this suction effect from your heart. It pulls the liquids into your bladder. Don't ask me. I mean, hey, if I had the article, I could explain it to you. The science is out there. You go dig it up. You know, I go talk to the WHO. I don't know who has access to that research, but it's been done. Anyway, uh, I mean, there's just so much that is different about my biochemistry that and just general ways that my body is working that, you know, I'm sure that they're still going to be mystified in a post-mortem examination, but they at that point they will have some answers. But if you're talking about decades of changes, they won't have decades of evidence. They'll have the way things end up, you know. So anyway, you know, it's all kind of morbid. I get it. I'm sorry, but you know, I grew up as a man of logic. I've always been an analytical guy, want to know why, want to know how, and I can make, like, you know, connections in my head that other people can't. I can skip steps, and, you know, hey, I saved myself. I mean, who confronted with this, you know, state that I was in would have asked to see the medical textbooks. Okay, you gotta be pretty crazy to be doing that. B, found one that sounded like what you got and decided to implement an experiment that you knew would lead to a life of health issues that would not be found, and you know, and ultimately you would die, but hey, you would add, you know, 25 years or more to your lifespan potentially. You know, I'm a smart guy. I'm an analytical guy. I'm a guy based on science, and the fact that somebody has removed science from public access that could save lives, and they don't even know the ramifications of it because people can't study it because they don't have access to it. I mean, it just pisses me off. So, and that's why I'm making these daily updates, mostly, and so someone can see the progression. You know, I think if I document it, then people will have a hard time saying, well, that's not real. Okay. Okay. Well, that's it for today. Take it easy. I gotta go eat lunch, do some grocery shopping, assuming my battery is ready to start my car. Later.